Hey everybody, welcome to our next episode of Grow with Glow. On this particular episode, I'm going to sit down with NBA veteran Kent Bazemore. Now what's really cool about Kent is he had the chance to play with Steph Curry, play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and play against Kobe Bryant. What you'll learn in this interview is his insight when he had to cover Kobe Bryant. I'm going to say that again. His matchup was to cover Kobe. And the lessons he learned, the insight that he took away, why Kobe meant so much to the game, is going to come from a place of not competition, but admiration. And as Kent talks about Kobe Bryant, I think you're going to get to see the sense and the spirit of how he loves the game of basketball. And maybe what kind of spurred this interview and really at my request was when I was doing a home visit for him and providing chiropractic care, he said something that really stuck with me because it was out of the norm for most athletes, and it was very spiritual, and he and I had some philosophical conversations. I took care of him through COVID, so going to his house in a time when people were afraid to travel or see other people, he welcomed me with open arms. His family was gracious, and he just wasn't going to live a life in fear, for which I admired in the middle of a pandemic. Also, what he said on one of the visits that really kind of said, I got to sit down and talk more about this, was the spirituality of the game and how doing things from a soulful place is really beneficial, not only for enjoyment level, but also for the process that you're going through. And this goes for anybody. Your process, if you can enjoy the process, find fun and joy in it, then ultimately you wind up more successful and fulfilled. And this is what we call happiness is the way. Happiness isn't a destination. When I get to these numbers, when I get to this money in my bank account, when I get to this level of my chiropractic practice or whatever it is, happiness is the way to get to those numbers. Happiness is the way to get your bank account full. And again, whatever it is that you do, happiness is the way. Happiness is not a destination. It's not a number on the map that when you get here, then I'll feel happy. Don't defer that gratitude. Enjoy the process and go through it. And what Baze said specifically was, the more metrics we keep in basketball, the less soul you're going to get from the player. And I really thought that was interesting. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, the more metrics you keep, the more you look at this as a robotic algorithm, and that's not how the game's meant to be played. There's ebbs and flows. He said even the word momentum, it's this reference to energy. Ooh, the momentum shifted in the stadium. Well, you can't really measure momentum. It's not like a scoreboard in the stadium that shows you who's got momentum now. It's a thing you feel. And he said basketball is very much like that. It's a soulful experience. You feel the flows. You feel when someone's a hot shooter. You feel when it's the time to pull up in that mid-range jumper. And in that sense, I thought, there's more to this guy than what meets the eye. And with each occurrence and every time I worked on him, I learned a little bit more and took a little deeper dive. And I know you're going to love this interview because he is just that. And what he has in reverence for the game, I think, is a spirit he shared with Kobe. And it's why he didn't just guard him. He admired him. He took notes. He had lessons. And even after the games that he played, Kobe a lot of times would show massive respect and give him a big hug. And in a game where you're competing and going hard at each other, inevitably you're going to foul each other. There is no bad blood. It's this respect for the process, this beauty of whatever it is that you do. There is always an art form to a thing you love. And for Kent, it's basketball. For you, it might be business. It might be parenting. But if you can find the beauty in it, enjoy the process of it, make happiness the way you do it, then I think you'll come out as happy and wholesome as you'll find Kent Bazemore in this particular interview. Again, he played with Steph Curry, he played with LeBron James, and he got to match up against Kobe. And even though Kent is known as a defensive force, I think what you'll appreciate is how Kobe defended him and his stories of Kobe Bryant. But please know, the spotlight's on Kent Bazemore. He's the star of this interview. He's a great guy, and I'm really hoping we can do a part 2 because he's just a gem of a human being and was certainly a treasure in the NBA. All right, everybody, I am super stoked to be sitting down with one of my favorite people, Kent Bazemore, who played in the NBA for over a decade. But kind of what I want to do in this interview is just give you some insights as to who he is, some of the backstory of what he does, some of those health hacks and cheat codes that he does because he's a natural health guy. But I also want people just to see like how soulful he is and what he brings to the game, his love for the game, and also his appreciation for his time playing in the NBA. Again, 10 years in the NBA. The guy was the Defensive Player of the Year in Division I basketball in college. And basically, that's kind of the mentality he took to the NBA. Is just protecting the rim, defense first, definitely an offensive threat, definitely a three-point shooter. But I've had the privilege of working on you chiropractic care-wise for the last few years. And I just have been like politely hounding you. Is that a word? I'm like, Baze, we got to do an interview.
Yes, sir.
He's just so soulful. And there's just so many insightful things you've said while working on you and providing chiropractic care. And I'm like, man, people need to know who you are. And maybe more importantly, some lessons today that you're going to have for them. So thanks for sitting down. Thanks for having us in your home to do this.
Sir. Yes, sir. It's my first time kind of out and about in a while. I played 10 years in the league, got waived in 2022, and there was an incidency, tinksy, winksy bit of relief in that.
Yeah.
And I explored that, and that led into a myriad of things. One, just getting back in touch with my body, understanding how much rest I needed, how burnt out I was. We fight that feeling of I'm tired. You don't want to tell yourself that when you're constantly chasing something. So it's the first time in a minute that I really admitted it, and it led to some amazing things.
Yeah, for sure. And just your approach too, even that word explore. You wanted to explore that. In other words, you went in.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people would go out.
Yep.
Right? They might lash out at the media. They might have negative things to say. But again, that's like what I've come to know of you is that soulful part where you go, I go in, I'm going to go on a journey. I'm going to take a meditation. I'm going to just look into this and kind of unwrap what this is. And it was just really cool to see how you responded to that. Because I think a lot of people would come at it with a negative approach.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, the 10 years you had in the league were phenomenal years,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I can mention your name in Atlanta, and you haven't played there in a few years, and people still light up. I mean, just the positive mojo you brought to the crowd in the stadium, both on the court and when you were cheering on your teammates. If you had a sub and you were getting your breath coming back in, like you were riling up the crowd, getting the mojo going. They had write-ups in the Atlanta paper about your positive energy. Like talk to me about that a little bit.
When you're fortunate, blessed, privileged to walk my path and have some of the experiences that I've had, like it's almost an obligation of mine to like give that back. Like even and I know we'll get to this, but my experience going down to the G League, my 10 years of NBA experience wasn't a chest out thing. It was more so a gift. Like I played with some of the best players to ever grace the floor during my era.
For sure.
Here's some of the things that I learned. Here's the camaraderie it takes to be on a winning team. Having shared a 60-win locker room with 4 All-Stars. Like Eastern Conference Finals. Like I seen all that. I saw what it took. And I bottled that, and that's what I carry with me. That light. I love brightening dark rooms. Most people, like you said, they lash out, but it's the easy thing to do. My mother always told me to have a mind of my own, right? Like, if you see this is how a lot of other people respond to certain things, like, take a step back and see, is that really right for you? Like their experience, people had experience that you can learn from. So you don't have to tell me twice. I always like to tell people, you don't have to tell me twice.
Right. But even that, being the light in the room, I mean, there's times I would come to your home and take care of you and adjust you, and just seeing the brightness, whether, you guys had lost a couple games or the lineup had gotten shuffled. There's times you were starting for the Lakers. There was times you weren't. And it never changed your mood. You just walked in, big high five and a hug, and let's get to work. And you controlled what you controlled. And those other things never came into it. So it was just really cool to see your approach, so much so that I started bringing my son Hero up there. I'm like,
yes, sir.
Hey, Baze, if it's cool, it's quicker in the carpool lane. I'll always make an excuse, right? But that was my ultimate, check off. Like, this guy's just the real deal. And I'm like, Hero, don't so much look at his body and how impressive he is as an athlete. Listen to how he thinks And I think that's huge, just
that.
just the personality. And I want that for how you're raising your kids, but also for my children to see and experience that. Like, hey, if everybody's doing this, see if that's right for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Your way works too. I like to tell people that a lot. A lot of people struggle with their own idea of self-worth. Like, what do I mean? Even to myself, like your way works too. Just because, it's not, you're not on everybody else's race either. That's why I can still, have my dignity and vigor about what I do, because even during the dark times, like, that's when I double down even more.
Yeah.
If we're down, with 5 minutes to go, 7-point game on the road, like, that's the time. It's really time to like dig in.
Yeah.
You always have a chance. You always have an opportunity. So when they knock, how you take advantage of that is like, how much preparation have you done during the dark times? Like Damian Lillard talks about it. He's one of the more vocal guys when it comes to like, talking about what he's been through, like that dog mentality, like, out of the mud, they like to call it. So, in your darkest times, like, that's when it really counts. Everybody can be happy, jolly when times are good, but when you get punched in the mouth, like, how you gonna respond?
Yeah. And that word has kind of found its way into lacrosse, my world, which is dog. That dog mentality, and it's like that's an ultimate, sign of approval from players when they say he's a dog. He just gives it 100%, just goes full throttle. Let's talk about some of the lessons, because you have played with some of the game's greatest. You've played against some of the game's greatest, and dare I say, you covered one of the best of all time in Kobe Bryant. And winning Division I, you played at Old Dominion.
Yes, sir.
Winning the Lefty Drizel Award, which is basically the best defensive player. He just passed away.
Yeah.
Rest his soul. Yeah. And basically, you brought that to the league, right? So the NBA. And so now you guys are playing the Lakers. And your matchup and your assignment is cover Kobe.
Man, actually, he scored the quickest 5 points on me. And I think Coach took me out my first stint on him. I went under a pick and roll on the right wing, pull up three. And I think he got like a little mid-range shot on me. But I was more so in awe.
I'm sure. Like, I think anybody listening, like, how could you not be anything but be like, oh my God?
Like, just now that I'm older, like, just the attention to detail, like, he took what the game gave him, I think is the biggest thing I took from him. Like, even if he was just inside the 3-point line, like, Pau Gasol comes up to set a screen, he comes off at the bigs at the free throw line, and he comes off right off Pau, he can pull up. That's a good shot to him. He makes those. It's not about, if the guard goes under, shoot a three, or, go to the rim. Like, there's so much of the game missing in the middle of the floor. Like, you get in the teeth of the defense, you become an absolute animal, especially if you can pass the ball. Oh, you get into the teeth of the defense, it's a different ball game.
I remember one of the games you covered him, and maybe one of the greatest signs of honor and respect was he grabbed you and gave you a big hug after the game.
Man, that was his last game in Atlanta. I told him, it's crazy. I said, stop playing to go get 50 on these boys. And his last game, he dropped 60. But this is what separates him. You could tell that he done so much internal work throughout his career that his last game, he was able to tap into all of that and put on one of those performances.
Yeah.
It's if you're still battling the same demons, as a player, throughout your career, you haven't really gotten, better. You know what I'm saying? If you can, your last game, you can still get to your spots. You can still have the mental focus to like really dial in. I think you've truly mastered, your art, your craft.
And this is the Baze philosophy I wanted people to hear, because that's a metaphor for life too, right?
Yep.
If you're the same person in 10 or 20 years and you're battling the same demons in 10 or 20 years, you haven't ascended to the place you're probably supposed to be. And the universe is going to keep throwing you these challenges. Unless you overcome it, you're going to keep getting the lessons. And so either
like
learn
the Ferris wheel.
That's right. And how many people though, right? Whether it's the end of their career or the end of the basketball career or their work career, if they're fighting the same demons for 20 years, you just haven't learned the lesson, right? And that's the soulful part of this too, that I wanted people to hear, and his attention to detail. And I know you have great respect for Kobe's game.
Yes, sir.
So, understanding, covering him, being in awe, and at the same time admitting that was probably the 5 quickest points? Probably not,
No, probably not.
because he lit up a lot
But
of
it
people.
felt- yeah.
But did it somewhat feel good, like sitting there and just being like, I was just covering Kobe?
Scott Gooder, who's the photographer in Atlanta, he's been a photographer for a very long time, caught the best shots of that moment. I have the ball in the left corner, and he's sending me to my right hand. Like, I'm a left-handed player.
Right, totally.
He's in my
I'm
lap.
laughing because you're a lefty. It's
Dude,
like,
he's
yeah.
in my lap, sending me to my right hand.
Yeah.
And like in my mind, I'm like, if I was in the space, you know, it'd have been so cool to like play against that, because that's what I think him and Mike really enjoyed about each other. It's like just that spiritual game they play. You know, the chess game that they play. Like Sherlock Holmes is one of my favorite movies with Robert Downey, because they have that whole fight scene before they even have it. You know, like that's kind of the way that I like to see the game. So him sending me to my right hand, like now I would just blew by, you know, one dribble pull up, because he's going to have to open up. I'm gonna sail the drive and then pull up, and then I'm say, you know,
he's gonna have to
take that.
He's gonna have to recover a little bit, and that gives you enough space. But he did his homework, even you know,
bingo.
And so he's sitting in your left pocket, and you got to go right. And so, but just little things like that, right? And the game happens really quick. And if anybody's there, there's a lot I'm sure they miss, but just to hear those intricacies. But if it's cool, I want to kind of run down the list, because you've had teammates that are also on that caliber. I'm talking about Steph Curry. You've played with also a defensive prowess in the NBA, and Anthony Davis, LeBron. Talk me through some of those teammates, and maybe people I didn't mention that I should have mentioned.
Jeff T, Cal Korver, Millsap, Horford.
Horford's your boy, huh?
Yes, sir. Championship. You know, him winning. I remember when he won the back-to-back titles at Florida. Like that's a crazy feat, you know, in college.
Right.
You know, for one, all those guys that want to return and do it again, but two, to just have the discipline to go do it again. And, you know, he's with the Boston Celtics now, who have a really good shot at, you know, getting it done. And I think, you know, for him, for what he's put into the game, Al Horford, I think he's going to be so elated, you know, to get that. I can truly feel how much it's going to mean to him to get that done. So,
it's cool, because even when you guys played against each other, I know you always grabbed each other for photos afterwards, and you know, hugs and high fives, and you were the last two to leave the court. You know, everybody else is celebrating, going to the parking lot, and you two are still carrying on conversation. Like, I also love that too, when you could be opponents, but someone felt that connection with you from years ago, and they want to keep it going.
Well, yeah, when you in this league, you make so many sacrifices, you know, as a man. So, you know, the time you spend with guys in a good locker room, or their memories, because you're with these guys all the time, and you're spending your time away from your family, you know, so you want to make sure you're getting a lot out of it. And with that team, we played Uno on the flights. Like, you know, we had 8 guys around a little bitty table playing Uno.
There's a little bit of trash talking going on.
Oh my gosh! Like, and we took that game to such a new level, to where, you know, we take 3 or 4 decks and add all the draw 2s, the draw 4s, random skips and reverses, and some dudes would take like 60 cards. Like it was incredible. It was so much fun. But like, that was our way of like truly bonding. And that 60-win team in Atlanta, like, I got so much respect for those guys. Like, you know, we don't talk and keep in touch like, you know, like we probably want to, but like it's just such a deep bond with someone that you can go through the fire with and come out victorious.
Yeah. So I know Steph Curry is one of your best friends. He invites you to most things he does in the off season. That too is a tribute. Like, who you spend your time with says a lot about your values. You're one of the first guys he's got there for everything, whether it's his shoes, it's his summer camp that he does. Talk a little bit about what you've learned from Steph's either work ethic or what he puts in that people don't see.
Yeah, it began back in college, and just understand, you know, he's a mid-major guy, you know, so Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, you know, all of my mid-major guys, like, we just have a different, you know, chip on our shoulder. You know, we aren't at a Big 5 school to where, you know, you have all of that exposure. So to do what you do from a mid-major is a lot of respect, you know, so we had that going for him. And then, you know, I was obviously a rookie, his 3rd year in the league, and just to see his growth as a player and the work that he put in. You know, I always tell this story. He was playing probably between 32, 34 minutes a night. You know, I was playing 4 minutes a night, and I'd be in the gym after practice on the court for an hour and a half. And I look on the other end, he's down there working too. So, you know, and then just even some of his personal, but basketball, like, you know, he came into the league, like, they say he was weak. He couldn't be a strong guard. Like the time he's put into his body to help improve his game. Like those are the things that I really appreciate about, men, guys that are going to continue to fill, their holes. And also, I mean, beyond all of that, just how much he gives, he gives that same light, that same joy, and it's contagious. So
I think that's why he liked you so much too. Is you naturally just bring that. That's who you are. But even when he does his summer camp, like the Curry camp, you're always out there and you're always playing with him. So is it fair to say that at some point in your career, at some point in Steph's career, people said you couldn't do it. People said it wasn't going to happen. People said you weren't good enough.
Right.
And I think people need to rehear that too. Just Steph Curry. What do you mean he's not strong? He's not this.
Exactly.
It's like he clearly was even overlooked in college because nobody took him to one of the bigger schools. Right. So, and then what's it like when you were playing with the Lakers and you had Anthony Davis behind you? Because I know your D was like second to none.
Yeah, that was that was the Lakers. It was. I don't know. It was, I think about that season a lot still to this day. And just in terms of that team, that roster, and, the kind of experience we had. And I'm a big guy on, experience matters. So I just, me personally, it's still a sore spot. I felt like we had a really good opportunity to do some special things, and like we failed that. And, me going back there, on top of what Kobe meant to me, like it was a serious thing for me. So I wanted more from that experience for sure.
I'll say this on your behalf, because I'm a huge fan. You took less money to go there. You had opportunities to play other places. You could have stayed and played with Steph, but what I want the viewers to know is a big part of your decision, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but a big part of your decision was to play in a place that Kobe built, to play into the legacy of Kobe, and to just, imitate, emulate, and give respect to his game is a big part of why you went to the Lakers and took less money. And I want to say that again, because a lot of people think, oh, it's about the money.
No.
You took less to go there because you felt like that was a void you wanted to fill in the shadow of Kobe. Am I right about that?
Who's your all-time favorite chiropractor?
My all-time favorite chiropractor. That's a great one, man.
Or like somebody that you,
I would say my buddy Ryan Blassie.
Okay.
He was my roommate when I was in school. How he was in school, chiropractic school, after school, and what he is today. Just pure, no agenda.
Right.
Just wants to help people. Just wants to, and at the same time, he was the guy taking care of Mark McGuire through the home run derby.
Okay.
Never changed the swagger. Never changed anything. Just was the same dude. And I thought, man, if I could stay grounded like that guy, big things are going to happen.
So imagine, you get a call, from a team that you grew up watching, and they're like, hey, the starting shooting guard spot is open. Your best player played there.
Jeez.
How do I say, it's just like, how do you not consider that? Like, it's just an honor to be in that spot, that, like I said, that chapter meant so much to me. I think at the end of the day, I wanted it too much, which is why I kind of like fled. But
I think all of us listening have probably wanted something too much at some point.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think this goes back to your philosophy in life, if I'm right about this, which is it's not force. It's basically influence, right?
Yes.
Like you kind of you get into flow, and that's where you're good. If something is forced, it's probably not going to work, and that maybe was a little forced.
Okay.
But if you've ever wanted something too much, if that's your biggest crime is to want it too much, it's okay.
You gotta live with it. Yeah, sometimes
right.
you throw your eggs in one basket. Like that just is what it is.
But not wanting it enough, I can't live like that.
No, exactly.
Nah, that's not good,
100%,
right? So
100%.
Can we talk a little bit about some of the down times? And what I mean is $4.99. Because I freaking love that.
Yeah, $4.99 is coming out of college. I broke my foot going into my senior season, and I fell off the draft boards, obviously. And I watched the entire draft, didn't get picked, and I make a summer league team with Golden State, and these ESPN rankings come out, and I'm on there, 499 out of 500 players. Eddie Curry was the only guy on the list below me, and it was like a joke that there were a couple of dead guys ahead of me too. So,
a couple of guys not even alive. They're up there.
But the thing is, like, I embraced that. Just like when I got waived, I felt the relief. Like I got ranked 499 out of 500. I embraced it. Even so much that Under Armour graciously put the stitching into my shoe, my second year summer league. So every game I warmed up, though I went to lace up my shoes, I saw that and I was reminded of that, what it actually took to get here. A lot of people don't even, understand. I'm from a very small town of 300 people in Kelford, North Carolina. Like, I mean, we had one post office, no grocery stores, no stoplights. We had 2 caution lights on the railroad, fire department, big water tower. I mean, that was pretty much it. Everything else is grass and gravel, right? So to climb up out of there, to even get to be able to sit here, we go back to my light. Like, I just have so much gratitude, for what I've been through. So just being out there on the floor with $4.99 in my shoe, like, I shouldn't even be here. I got $4.99 in my new basketball sneakers. Like, I'm about to go tear this up.
We're sitting in your house and you got $4.99. And so what I love is that you embraced it.
Yep.
Right? That wasn't like an embarrassment thing. That wasn't. And what I would call that is an anchor. So I have an anchor on my desk when I go adjust people and I take care of them. And I've got a little pill bottle that's filled with candy. Okay. Long story short, we were at a health fair and there's a pharmaceutical company giving out candy in a pill bottle. And it really just rubbed me the wrong way. And their answer was, we want kids to not think all medicine tastes bad, so they just take their medicine when they get older. And it's crazy, right? Because we have the same love for pharma with that stuff. And I just was like, this is crazy. So I keep it on my desk and I rattle it before I go and see patients every time I go out there, because it's an anchor. And what an anchor is, and people can do this, is something that means a lot to you, but it wasn't exactly a bright spot, but you harnessed it and you made it bright. And so you went, I'm like $4.99, and then you stayed in the league for a decade. Yep. Any of those experts, any of the ESPN, any of the scouts, any of the coaches, they got you wrong.
92. I got all the way up to number 92.
My man.
Yeah.
But I love that. They got it wrong.
So crazy. Yeah, right? I mean, but what is a ranking anyway? What is any of that? Like, you can't look at, I love to gauge people by, where they're at in life. Like, what kind of words are they using? Are they driven? Like, all these different things. Like, what background, what upbringing did this kid have that I can turn him into, a good player? Is he coachable? Is he disciplined? All those things. Is he a good student? Because all that stuff matters into building a person. In order to build a player, you got to build the person first.
That's right. Yeah.
I think people get it so backwards. Mm-hmm. They try to build a player who stays in the gym all the time but doesn't rest, and then the grades are failing. So those are the habits you're going to fall back on. Like, I took school extremely serious, because if I didn't finish my homework, I wasn't going to YMCA practice. Right. You ain't going to YMCA basketball
practice.
Those
are good parents.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's, you can't skip steps. Like, who you are in this facet of your life is who you're going to be in everywhere else. Yeah. Like, you can't cut corners here and think that you're going to touch every line when you're doing your conditioning test over here.
That's it. 2 things with that. Number 1, you're not your number.
Right.
I don't care who ranks you, what the wrong. Like, and that goes back to what you said, like, know yourself, do it your way. Your way works too, right? Mm. So $4.99, I'm gonna crack the top 100, and so your way works too is kind of that mentality. Your anchor's on your shoes. You lace them up every game at $4.99. Yeah. You weren't hiding from that. You were embracing, going, that's who I am, right? This is $4.99. Let me show you what I got.
This is who I am. I like that.
And also from a coaching perspective, anybody listening that coaches or mentors, like, I think you can only go so deep with a player as you are deep with them as a person. Mm-hmm. Like, the deeper you know them as a person, you know what's going on, then you can ask more of them, right? You can pull more out. Yep. But if you don't want to go deep with the person, you can't go deep with the player.
Yep. Blaine Taylor is my college basketball coach, and he was the best example of that. Coach Chris Towell too. I've had some really good coaches that Tony Hoggett, Calvin Moore, Michael McNeil. These are all the coaches that gave me the foundation that I have today. Like, and my mother she was very vocal. She let them know a little bit what was going on, and they used that to help nurture us. I think a lot of times, players these days need nurturing. Yeah. Like, you're just out in the world that labels you as a number, and you believe that. I'm trying to be, number 1 in this class. Well, I mean, what's that really going to do for you?
You are not your number.
It's like, regardless of where you are, if you're at the bottom or if you're at the top, you aren't the number, because, life happens. Like, and how you handle life. I like to tell these young players, like, your career is your journey from the first time you pick up to a basketball to now until when you're done. Like, just look at that. Don't worry about getting it now and trying to get everything now. jumping from school to school. Stay solid. Go through what you need to go through. See it through. That's why staying with the Lakers throughout all of that was probably one of the best things I could do. I could have ran.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, I could have requested a trade, but those problems aren't going to go anywhere. The grass ain't always greener. So staying through that gave me a lot more resilience and grit and understanding of the process, the bigger process.
Yeah. And you were always gracious about that. You could have made noise in the media. You could ask for more playing time. I mean, to me, I think that's why you have LeBron's respect, because the long game, you played it, and then all of a sudden they look now and they go, we need some defensive toughness. We need the guy that can drain the clutch three. Leadership. And we need the guy off the bench that's going to protect the glass. And, I mean, we talked about it candidly, but protecting the rim, that's a bit of a lost art these days in the NBA, right? Like, and somebody, if they got a step on one of your teammates, because I know they wouldn't beat you, but if they got to step on your teammate, like how quick, that's right, like how quick you were to the rim is like just super impressive. You weren't playing for points, you were playing for the win.
You got to win. You're trying to win. You make all these sacrifices. You love this game. You're trying to win. The goal is to win. If I don't have it tonight and my teammates out there playing well, I'm going to give him everything I got, because that's going to eventually lead to a win for us. And you win championships. And when you win championships, that's when you get your bag, young fellas. Like, you gotta win. Like, you can, if you get that bag without winning, you're probably gonna be a shell of yourself. But winning really fills you up, because you're doing the proper things in life too. Like, you're putting the right time into your body. You're putting the right time into your nutrition. You're putting the right time into the people that have around you. Like, a lot goes into that. So
I don't claim to be the only health practitioner you see, but at the same time, when I get to provide chiropractic care and we talk, like, your understanding of the body, nutrition, the mind, body, spirit. I mean, that was one of the first conversations we had where I was just like, whoa, this guy's deep. I mean, you just really understood those components. Welcome to Grow with Glow, the show where we explore ways to stay healthy naturally and grow your influence. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, the clean salt electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. There's no sugar, just the essentials for optimal hydration. Whether you're an athlete, busy professional, or just someone who wants to stay hydrated, Element is designed for you. So what sets Element apart? Well, it's the science-backed formulation. You see, Element is created by experts who understand the importance of electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium in maintaining proper hydration and supporting overall health. These electrolytes are crucial for muscle function, energy, and anything that makes Element stand out is its commitment to real, clean ingredients. You won't find any artificial sweeteners or flavors in here. Element is keto-friendly, paleo-friendly, and suitable for a variety of dietary preferences. And here's the best part. For our listeners, Element has a special offer. Your first purchase through the website and the link below in the show notes will get you an offer where a complimentary package is sent with the purchase of your first item. So again, use the link in the show notes, and when you make a purchase, you will get a complimentary pack at no extra fee. You're going to enjoy it, and again, it's paleo and keto friendly, keeping you hydrated. Talk to me a little bit about your pregame or postgame ritual.
Pregame, it obviously starts the night before. I kind of at about 5:30 is when I just start everything. It doesn't matter what I did before that. 5:30 is like, all right, I need a decompress time, whatever that is. Maybe it be, back home, maybe it be reading a book or journaling or watching a cool TV show or just doing nothing. Absolutely. This depends on where you are. And then you want a nice big meal. I need a nice big old meal just to kind of settle the body, give the body something to do while I sleep, deep sleep, 8.5 hours. Preferably, I'm really big on sensory deprivation, blackout room, cold temperature, just knock out. And then the next day, just, mind and body ready again, easing into the day, making sure you get up and don't snooze. Just get up, get yourself going. Like, don't hit that button.
Show me get up again with your hand.
Get up.
Get up. This is so good. But did you ever sleep with an eye mask?
Nah.
Okay. But completely blacked out room was great. Yeah,
I mean, because you got to think, like, once you start getting a little deeper in, I've gone off the deep end of some of this stuff sometimes, but like brain waves, like they put microbes in people's brains while they sleep, and like any sounds can like disrupt all that. So if you can create that space for yourself, then by all means.
I like that you've gone off on the deep
Yeah,
end. And
yeah.
I mean, it's just because you become a student of
Yeah.
maximizing your health. Maybe that's part of 499. Yeah, how do I maximize my potential?
Exactly.
How do I get the most out of it? But I also love that in our conversations because you're a student of the game.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand what's going to provide longevity. You know, something you can sustain.
Yeah.
And it goes back to discipline. You
Yeah.
know, like, you know, obviously we all on purpose when we go through certain things in life. There's certain times where you have to stray away from those, but like you can also let go, not be as rigid too. Because I used to fall into that trap too. Like I would get frustrated if I didn't have my resources or if I wasn't getting the sleep that I wanted. Like there was a period there where I was just so stern on like this needs to happen, but you know that comes with balance. That comes with getting older. So it's
and also children change some of that too, right? It's like because it's not just your schedule.
Exactly. So that's the part of life, man. That's just finding ways, you know, evolving and being agile.
Yeah. So what would you say chiropractic care did for your longevity in your career?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, I know hip alignment is, you know, just being in alignment in general. You know, we can take it even broader. Just being in alignment is everything. But, you know, getting those alignments so my body, I can perform evenly. You know, I can feel both sides. Like I'm not, you know, overly compensating on one side. Or I love golf and basketball. So, and I'm learning, you know, I'm changing my form in both. My body's changing. So as that happens, you know, get my chiropractic adjustments just help me kind of stay there and build strength. And, you know, hopefully one day we'll just be hanging out, you know, but,
That's right.
you know, and until then we're going to, you know, keep chiseling at it, keep staying with it. And I think every adjustment is kind of a nod to moving in the right direction. You know, every time you move the hip back in the right spot, you know, it gets closer and closer to that true alignment. So it's just a nice part of life too.
I love it. Yeah, so we're up Northern California. I live in Southern California, and Baze shot me a message. Would you fly up and take care of me? And I love doing that.
Yep.
I mean, I love it because the connections and the conversations we have are like, man, that's just so money, you know. And so any opportunity, I'll come up because also the appreciation factor, right? Also understanding like how much he does it. And I listen to what his body's telling him. I listen to what he has to say because that input is super important. Yep. And a lot of times you'll take me right to it, you know, and there's times it's like, hey, left wrist is locked up, and then we'll get that thing moving. And I watch you stroke a 3 and I go, I think I got the assist on that. Yeah. They gave it to Rondo, right? They gave it to Doe. That's another soulful guy, right? So, one of the things I think is huge too is like the mental game.
Yep.
So at one point you and I talked about meditation.
Yes, sir.
And I introduced you to Joe Dispenza.
Yep.
We were doing some dental roll work, some cervical curve work, and then you were putting on your dental roll and then listening to Joe Dispenza. How important is the mental game, stress, meditation, all of it?
Yeah, it's all about clearing space in the mind, you know, before you perform that task at hand. And I think what that did, especially during the time, you know, that we had actually crossed paths, I think that just kind of gave me, you know, a kind of beacon of sorts. You know, I had so much going on in the mind, but it was just really nice to kind of, you know, tune all of it out. And then, you know, you come back to and, you know, the dust has settled a little bit. So it's definitely, you know, meditation is definitely something that I incorporate a ton now. Like, you know, and it's not like it's, you know, a lot of people look at meditation as, you know, sitting in a dark room and, you know, legs crossed, and, you know, it's actually just becoming aware, you know, coming back to the breath, coming back to the body. You know, for me, it's been, you know, one of the best things that I picked up over the last 3 years or so.
Right on. And you're super good about just your routine, your health. I mean, I remember going to your hotel room one time, you guys were on the road and you had a foot device that was just individually moving the bones in the feet and just making sure that the arch was right and turning your foot in and out. And it was just one of those things like you had devices in your suitcase, and it was just cool to see like just how into your health you were.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, and I'm a kid I grew up with, you know, a decent amount of toys. You know, I had video games, and, you know, that's the same kind of curiosity that I take into my body. You know, I love messing around with gadgets and, you know, seeing what works, just being, you know, curious and open, and just trying to, you know, get myself, you know, stay ahead of the competition, you know, just in terms of putting in the work around the clock, you know, so that, because that's the stuff that adds up. Like even being 35 this year, I'll be 35 in July. but I preserved my body long enough to be able to, continue to put in the work while having the experience.
Yeah, and it's one of those, it shows. I mean, the fact that you're out there for 10 years, if people knew how much wear and tear goes into the NBA, like if they were ever up close to the action, like that's an amazing feat unto itself. But you mentioned, not playing for the last team, and then you decided to go play in the G League because of your love for the game. I don't think a lot of people would do that. A lot of people would look at that maybe as a demotion. They would look at that as, I was in the NBA, and for you, it's just about playing ball. You still play pickup ball once a week with a local high school team, right?
Yeah, going back and playing was definitely about love, just reintroducing myself to the game, and it kind of lined up because where I was at in life kind of lined up with the opportunity perfectly, and I stepped right into the role as a leader, as someone who need to be seen or be a messenger, kind of go out and lead and guide these younger guys, because it's a tumultuous world out there, especially trying to make it to the NBA. It can get really choppy. So just being a beacon for them a little bit, making sure they learn how to stay present during their experience, so they can get everything that they need to get out of it. So it was definitely a blessing in disguise. I had no idea. I didn't look at a roster. I didn't look at a ranking. I didn't look at any of that stuff before I went to this team. They were just back home in North Carolina, so I knew I could be close to my children. I could be close to my family. And I saw some old friends come, watch me play. Old teachers from back in the day came out, watched me play. And it was just really nice being back in North Carolina, smelling that air again where I grew up. And I got so much out of that.
That's awesome. Just soul food.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And again, this is kind of what I want people to see is like, it wasn't about notoriety. It wasn't about points. It wasn't about any of the things that sometimes people think it is. And maybe it is for other players. I just know it wasn't for you.
Right.
And for you to go back to North Carolina, your brother's a college coach back on the East Coast too, right? So just to be back and just to get that like soul food, I think that's a good message for people too. Like, what do you do for soul food? What do you do to rejuvenate yourself? It's almost like that childlike enthusiasm. But also, what's cool is you remembered your teachers, your coaches. I love that you mentioned your mentors and the people that taught you the love of the game, because a lot of times that's what they work for too.
Yeah,
they hope one kid has a breakthrough. They hope one kid gets all the lessons.
Yeah, that's all it is. It just takes one. Yeah, and I love that. I carry that inspiration for them. I love being that light for them too. Like, my journey isn't completely about me. I know there are a lot of people back in Kelford, North Carolina, northeastern North Carolina that. There are young girls coming out now, young men coming out now that are about to start their journey, and I'm just out here just trying to pave the way and lead that, show them what's possible.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talked through some things too, like the 100% rules, where if you say you're going to the gym, you go to the gym. If it's time to go shoot, you go shoot. And there was times I'd get a text from you like, I got to put in some extra reps. And it was just like, okay, you were locked in, And if it was that 5 o'clock time and it was pregame, we did very little talking because you just had a different look in your eye. And I think it's good for people to know that too. Like, hey, you got to switch roles. You got to change it up a little bit. And it's a decision you get to make.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I got some books behind me up here that I sent you through the pandemic with some crazy stuff. Ben Greenfield's book is up there, Boundless. We got the Pharma book. I marked up some things in there, and we talked a little bit about what people are into with health and what they're not into. And to me, the more natural you keep it, the better it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like there's a time and a place for that. But a lot of people, they wind up just looking for the quick fix or the easy solution. And it just gets real shallow. And I think that carries through in their life instead of the discipline of doing what's right and asking the questions.
Yeah.
What have been like some big health breakthroughs? Natural health. We talked a little about sleep. We talked about the Joe Dispenza meditation. What else has been like a natural shift or maybe something you did differently than some other guys in the league?
Well, I mean, just your body. The body is it has so much data and information in it. Like it's such an ancient thing. Like we've inherited so many different movements, from our ancestors. It just goes way back. So I think having all these, external forces, I like to call them, just takes away from the relationship with the body. The one thing I started doing was just listening to it. When I wake up, especially creating the space that I have, when I wake up, I feel, see, how it feels. I wake up, I move around on my way from the bed to the kitchen sink. I mean, my bathroom sink to brush my teeth. I could probably already know what the first half of my day is gonna look like just based on how I feel. So just getting in tune with that is kind of, you know, where I'm at. That's the biggest thing. Just listening to your body. If I don't feel like doing something today, you know, especially where I'm at, I'm in more of a period of rest versus relaxation. Two different things. Rest and relaxation are two different things. I'm in a period of rest. So right now I'm leaning to more towards just, you know, just staying back. I've been through so much mentally, so I'm just giving myself some grace and space right now.
I think it's super important for people to hear that from you.
Yeah.
Rest and relaxation are two different things, right? I mean, relaxation is a whole different mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
But rest and just kind of listening to your body, maybe different seasons of life, but also that idea that there's ancestral blueprints in our body. And if you feed your body kind of along that same mindset, I think you're going to get more out of it. If it's processed, artificial, if it could sit in your cupboard or your your food cabinet for 2 years, it's probably not food, right? You know, if it could last in your bomb shelter, that's not the food we should be eating, you know?
Yeah. It's so much that goes into that though. Like, you know, I don't know, resources. What kind of resources do you have? How important it is to you? Is it a priority for you? And I think once we start putting, you know, switching the priorities around a little bit, I think everybody will kind of gravitate towards that. But right now, everybody's just trying to, you know, grind. So right now, that's why all that stuff is popular, because, you know, it is a quick fix. You know, if you have a cold and, you know, you got to be it's the weekend, you got to be at work on Monday. You may, you know, but it's if you're, you know, spacing things out, you're really taking care of yourself. You're really about the, you know, the right things. Your priorities are in line with personal health and sleep hygiene and all of that. You'll slowly start to make those changes that you need to get longevity.
That's just it. And longevity is key, right? It's one of those, not just quantity of years, but also the quality of life within those years, you know, and just having that like full presence. The phone could be an easy one, right? Like just kind of detoxing from the phone.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that phone is crazy. Airplane mode until 8:30.
Right on.
Yeah, you just gotta give yourself some space. Get into that fast mind, the whole day just blur.
So first thing in the morning, looking at your phone, probably not the best thing.
No. Just get up, man. Go look at yourself in the mirror, brush your teeth, smile. Hey, man, I'm grateful to be here today. It's gonna be a great day. Just little stuff like that. I mean, it's not complex. I mean, I would feel embarrassed, you know, just doing it sometimes. Like, oh, Vase, you look good today, man. You know, but those things go a long way, man. For your self health and for your mental health.
And self talk is key, right? You know, people are like, oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe that. Like, cancel. Take that out of the vocabulary. Stop talking down to yourself. Anybody listening, if your kids are doing that, interrupt that pattern. You're not dumb. You know, it's like children are going to act out. They're going to do things. And you just don't want to label them either where you say, you're a bad boy. You're a bad boy. Why'd you do that? Oh, you did a bad thing. You're not a bad person. And then that can carry into later in life. So it can also pull you out of a funk, right? So smiling in the mirror, they've shown the physiology of people holding a smile for 30 seconds makes them feel better.
You imagine how many people can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like I say, there is a shift coming in that. I think those conversations are starting to happen more often in smaller circles. So there is a tide coming as the people like, all right, I am really tired. Like, you know, I know when I'm tired. Like I absolutely know. Like the simplest things, you know, if I gotta stop and think, I'm like, oh yeah, babe, you need some rest. So I'm quick to be the rest police for me.
Did you take naps on the road when you would travel?
Oh, 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I remember we were Hero and I went to see one time in Detroit. We were coming up and you're like, I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to do this. I'm going to come out. And I'm like, I love that you take midday naps, especially on the road, different time zones. Like that had to be brutal on your body.
Yeah. It's like I said, it is, but as long as you have the right practices and focus and discipline, like you playing in the NBA, you have all the recent, and I'm saying this after playing in the G League, that was a grind. But playing in the league, you have, you know, what you need to perform at a high level. Like I said, we just got to get that shift back into that, and it'll turn. Things will turn.
And what I love, even the little stuff that you do, it's the we things. We got to get back to this. We got to do that. It's never about you. It's not like this is my perspective. It's always like a we and a collective. And, even going back to North Carolina, you could have played anywhere. It was just about being with family. It was just about getting back in connections with people. Yeah. I'm going to do a couple quick 1-minute answers if you're good with it. And just like give me some short sound bites. On the road, what was the most important health thing you did?
Fresh air. Get on the road, get some fresh air, go for a walk, find a park, find some water. Just to get away. Yeah, especially towards the end.
Whole different thing too, getting blue light from outside, what it does to your brain, put you on a sleep cycle no matter what time zone you're in. When it came to chiropractic care, what's been your favorite part about being adjusted?
For me now, it's like the immediate relief, just getting back in alignment. I can, when I get off the table, it's that first 10 or 15 seconds of kind of getting your equilibrium back. But after that, like you just feel, the body's working more efficiently.
Love it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a championship team. What was your favorite team in the NBA to play with?
Favorite team in the NBA? 2015 Atlanta Hawks. Won 60 games, 19 in a row, 17 in a row in January, 4 All-Stars, and we shocked the world. I still think we're the better team too.
That's awesome. Yeah. Favorite teammate?
That's loaded, man. Yeah, I mean,
give me a top 4. How about that?
I mean, let me see. But these are guys that no one knows. Like that's
okay.
That's what makes it special. I had a guy, Jeremy Banks, played in Northeastern North Carolina. And he was 6'5", 6'6", handle, 2-guard. We were both, and he was like T-Mac. He was a T-Mac guy. I was a Kobe guy. So like we got to play together once, and that was such a feeding off him. That was such a cool experience.
That's cool.
Let me see, Frank Cassell. He's a big man, lefty. He plays over in he playing overseas right now. Still getting after it. We used to get into it. It's funny because my red shirt year, we ran team 2 mile, and he and I are fighting for last place. My red shirt freshman year. So he's still getting. We used to get into it all the time. 1-2 conference championships. So yeah, I mean those two to come to mind right now. I mean that's a whole conversation, bro. I probably had over 3,000 teammates, if I had to guess. That's just a random guess. Yeah. But dude, I've played with so many just amazing men. They're all a part of this journey though.
So that look in his eyes, kind of what I wanted people to see. Like we've had these conversations candidly. We talk about people, we talk about connections, we talk about teammates, and then he lights up. And that I think is the coolest part about Baze is just like, awesome. But his love for people. Like as you were thinking, you had the biggest grin on your face, just going through the Rolodex. Like, but just the way you live it, it's like what a blessing. You appreciate things, and I think a lot of people seek pleasure. So we talked about the phone and quick hits and whatever it is that's like a pleasure. But you have realized a long time ago, happiness is the way. Yeah. Happiness isn't a destination we get to. When we win these games, then we'll be happy. If we win the championship, you found that happiness is the way. And, quick hits is pleasure.
Right.
Pleasure is enjoying the process. I mean, happiness is enjoying the process. You found happiness in $4.99. You have kind of made your journey, I would say, a spiritual journey, and you overcame the odds, you overcame the critics, you overcame the experts. Critics is one thing. We all have those, right? Yeah. But the experts said you weren't going to be anything. And I think that mindset is probably the strongest muscle that most people don't use. Right. And like, if we want to talk about a spiritual guru, I'm going to throw that to you. So just raw and real, what would be your advice for any young athlete?
Just trust your process and really set your expectations for yourself. How much work am I actually putting in? How much support am I actually getting? Like my mother worked 3 jobs. So she set the tone in terms of what it's going to take to just even put food on the table, every day in Kelso, North Carolina, let alone play in the NBA. So just make sure you're staying true to your path. Like, don't skip steps. I promise you, if you don't get along with your coach, go talk to him. As a coach, he should probably come talk to you, but take it upon yourself to go talk to him, see how you can compromise, have those tough conversations, like really learn, to how to communicate, most importantly, and everything else is going to happen for you. Whatever you want to chase, it's gonna come to you. Whatever you're in alignment with, it's gonna happen for you. If you aren't, then it's not. Just keep it, stay moving forward, stay positive, because it's a journey at the end of the day. It's not about, tomorrow or the next day. It's just your whole journey. Just stay focused on it.
Enjoy the process. Don't skip steps.
Yep.
Have the tough conversations, even if it's with your coach, which a lot of kids are like afraid to have.
Yep, exactly.
And then stay positive. And I can say firsthand, there was times you were in the Lakers starting lineup. There was nights you weren't in the lineup. You were always positive. You were always gracious to the people around you. You were still a good teammate. I mean, we could watch somebody drain it in the corner, and you should have been on the court that night. And it didn't limit the cheering and the towel waving
right.
But it's no wonder why you have such a great reputation. You stuck around for over a decade contributing in the league,
yes,
because you brought that positivity. So again, for the kids listening, it's like he lived it. You cannot skip steps. You got to have the tough conversations and communication, and then the positivity. It isn't a word. It's not a thing. It's who you are. Right?
Exactly.
It's a way to be.
Right.
So that's huge. Final questions. Final thoughts. Anything I should have asked you?
No, I mean, I just this is my first time kind of coming out, I guess. Since 2022 and kind of this format. Obviously, I got some practice and stuff to do. Watch this.
Not at all. No, but, dude, do your money.
Yeah, man. I'm just, like I said, grateful just to get another crack at it. It's not often you can, take time off and, have a realistic go at something again. So just grateful for that, and grateful for the people that I've had in my corner. Throughout this entire journey, you included, just everybody. I'm just in a space of giving people their flowers. So to all the support, everybody, that's, if you see an old picture of me in your house that you had from, when I was in college, and you like fist pump at it, like that goes a long way too. Obviously being a big Dragon Ball guy, the spirit bomb, we need plenty of those. So send the good juju. I'm sending it right back to you, and all the best. Base. Yeah, baby. My man, my final question. Can we do this again, please? Like, this is freaking, I love the philosophy of life. I love what you have for the kids out there. And the final thing I'll say is, you've worked with Under Armour. You've supported Steph Curry with his shoes. You've given shoes to kids. I've watched you give free lessons to kids for hours. You nurture high school basketball players that are the top 50 in the country, going to play in big colleges. You donate your time. You give back to your community. You're always engaged with your alma mater, doing stuff for Old Dominion. Your high school, you support your brother who's a college coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're always giving of your time. So more than anything, I just wanted to, whatever audience I have, to give some props to a really good human being who happens to be a professional athlete. And I say that because he's professional in all he does, and the guy continues to be an ultimate teacher. So lessons for life, spirituality. We have some really deep conversations. I always appreciate them, and if my kids are around, I love hearing that too. But I would count Baze as one of my spiritual gurus, because he just brings it. And I've seen him in what could have been tough times, and the guy refuses to go with it. He is the light. He is that glow that we talk about, and I totally appreciate you having us in your home and letting me doing this. Thank you so much, my man. Thank you.
Hey, if you enjoyed that podcast, I think you're going to agree we should do a part 2. Now, part of doing that is we have some 5-star reviews and some positive comments, so Baze can see the engagement and the enjoyment from the listeners. So if you wouldn't mind, please do that. Leave us a 5-star review and drop some comments in there as well. Also, be sure to follow us, because then when we do the part 2, you won't miss it. At Kenny Baze is his handle on Instagram. He's always posting soulful stuff, and he's doing lives on a regular basis. He'll take questions from the comment section of the things that he does on social media. He's a very engaging guy, and he's also very insightful. I'm going to tell you who he will be in 2 years is different than who he is today, because he's evolving and he's always getting better. And I love being around people like that. So again, selfishly, I'd like to do a second interview with Kenny Baze, because he just brings it. And if you didn't feel it in this particular interview, then rewatch it, because there's some real gems here about his passion, his love for the game. And soulful people just kind of works for me. So we'll see you again soon on a Grow with Glow episode, and I hope you see Kent Bazemore on this podcast as well.